Well, welcome everybody here to this next session on the agenda for today, where we're going to talk about what I usually refer to as the absolutely underexplored gem of Prime, namely the SIP report, sharing information on progress. And every year, every second year, you are, as Prime signatory schools, committed to deliver that report to us in the Secretariat. So we receive all these wonderful, beautiful, insightful reports every year, every second year from you. But of course, we receive them on an ongoing basis, filled with practices, policies, aspirations on sustainable development, on responsible management that you are engaging in your individual schools. And it is a plethora of really insightful stories, narratives, numbers even. And it's like 1,000 flowers blooming. So it's very beautiful. It's looking back, accountability. It's looking into the future, about responsibility. It's reporting on the 6 principles of Prime. I have myself, as a professor, been writing and organizing these reports a number of times. And how many of you have written these reports? Could you just a hand up? How many have written these reports? Part of it, yes, a lot of you. So you know what it takes. A lot of sighing, it's a big journey, and for some it takes actually months to do these reports. And they are filled with a good inspiration. But maybe also many of you have experienced that the SIP report is a kind of what we in theory call auto-communication, or the Germans would say Autokommunikation. So auto-communication means basically that you speak with yourself. That the sender of the message is also the most interested reader of that message. So you could say the communication sort of goes in loop to yourself. You are speaking with yourself. You are the most engaged. When you have written something, you have authored a research paper. You are the most interested reader, and you see every little comma that is wrong, every little word that is not, particularly spelled right, or it should have been another word. You know you will see that because you are the reader, you are the author. You are the most dedicated reader of your own messages. That's auto-communication, and that's what this SIP report is oftentimes sort of seeing in the world. We are the most important, the business schools are the most important centers, of course, but the most dedicated reader ourselves. And it's not to underappreciate that auto-communication is very important for the SIP report. It is very important. I've experienced myself how I have been able to mobilize across disciplines within my school, where people see the report. First year, they don't want to be part of what is this. Then the next year, they've seen the report is out. They see that it's sometimes becoming a kind of a business card for the school, proudly given out by the dean to visitors. So next year, somebody else wants to be part of it. So I've been personally able to manage or mobilize a lot of good colleagues across disciplines to be part of that, really be part of that SIP report. And that's wonderful. But we thought 2.5 years ago, we started to think about that SIP report could be more than auto-communication. It could have another kind of purpose. It could have more readers. It could perhaps even have feedback. It could have peer reviews, and it could perhaps even live up to the mission of Prime, namely the sharing of knowledge that we all so much care about and that we all come here to actually engage and give and take from. So how do we do that? This is not an easy task to do, but this is the journey that we have embarked upon here, and this has to do with digitalizing the SIP report. And I have been so fortunate to have 2 of my colleagues here who have, over the past 2.5 years, for you, Gustavo, and a little less time for you, over the past half year, Tung, engaging on digitalizing the SIP report. And I would love to, just for the 2 of you, just to give a brief presentation of yourself before we dive into the workings of what it is we are about to do with that beautiful, wonderful SIP report. Gustavo, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mette. As I was like a professor in my institution, also responsible for doing the SIP report for many years. So I know how long it takes to do it, how hard it is to mobilize the school for getting data and information and inspire our colleagues to provide data on that. So I'm Gustavo. I'm now managing the SIP transition process and also the Champions Group. I was former chapter chair for Latin America and the Caribbean, and also representing my institution in Prime for almost 10 years. So 10 years doing the report because we do it annually. So I joined the SIP committee 2 years ago under Mette and Wilfred's invitation to be part of this group. And 1 year ago, I joined the secretariat and keep doing that in the other side. So it's good to have the different kinds of feel on this experience. So, yeah.
Tung, please. Thank you.
Yes. Hi, my name is Tung, and I'm the senior manager for the Prime Commons platform. I am also the senior strategic advisor at Erasmus University, a colleague of Wilfred as well. This is my first time in Prime. I'm thoroughly impressed with the inspiration and the care everybody have towards responsible management education. So I wasn't aware about the SIP reports until January. So it was really a great experience in learning about it and thinking about how to digitize such a wonderful report. That is the foundation of this community. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to share more later.
Thank you. And I just would like Wilfred Meinhardt just to stand up, Wilfred, because he is the guy who has been leading us fearlessly over the past 2.5 years. Yes. Who has been dreaming with us, critiquing with us, taking us through 2.5 years of reviewing the SIP report and dreaming about what it could be and what we are going to do with it. So thank you so much, Wilfred, and thank you for your support. And we feel it already sitting up here also. Thank you.
Well, so I would like to start share a little bit about our journey on this process and what our aims and ambitions on that. So here we had a brief slide with our SIP commit members that worked so hard during the past 2.5 years in 24 meetings that we had discussing that, and of course many more around the globe and with different points of view. But mainly, what we're here to present is a new logic. So we're calling this SIP 2.0 because it goes under one of the ambitions of Prime in transition for a digital space. Those who were here yesterday, Timo mentioned about the strategic view of Prime, what we envision for the next year and few years ahead. And the digital part is really important. That's why we are here at this event, this walk in the morning, just talking about this. So this is the core of the discussion. And of course, understanding the best way that we could do to share what our schools are doing to achieve Prime principles. So here in the screen, for example, and I'm calling this as a working process because, as you know, we are refreshing the Prime principles. But here we try to clusterize some topics around the principles, meaning to understand how to show action for each principles. As you know, they are really aspirational, and we learned a lot with those like 15 years of SIP reporting about what schools are doing. So this was part of the task and the ask for the SIP committee. So like we analyzed multiple reports and schematics around the globe from Prime, out of Prime, from different rankings, accreditations, different discussions, different regions, different points of view, trying to understand how to communicate around that, how to provide information about that, and how this connects with Prime principles. So we arrived at, after different rounds of consultations, probably you, mean consultant, during those 2 years, to understand also the community perception about that. We arrived in a set of questions that we're calling SIP questionnaire that try to identify and to collect information and data about the 6 principles, about the way that the schools are doing to implement that. And of course, this goes, we're calling SIP questionnaire, but this goes behind, just beyond quantitative data, but it's also qualitative data. So we are interested to hear the narratives, the stories behind the data and information. So that said, with this questionnaire, we open a call for the community, and next year, December 2022, inviting schools that would be that want to be part of this piloting process. And this was something new for Prime community. Pilot is something as we do it. with the community in a sense. So for us in Prime Secretariat was also a really interesting moment of learning with the community as we do things. And I think for the community and for the group, as we call it, early adopters, I think was a really interesting experience too, because we aim to launch something, we consult the community, and we're piloting together with the community, because this is, my perception, is a transformation, it's a cultural transformation inside Prime, because we're moving in a different way, like in a way to really interact with each other, learn from each other in a digital space, in a easy space to communicate and to interact. So this group of schools, 25 schools from all around the globe, engaged for about 3 months. Every 2 weeks, we had meetings to discuss, to get feedbacks and inputs and reflections about it, working on these questions and to make this useful for the community and also useful for Prime Secretariat, with this intention to understand our impact in the society as a community. Because of course, we had like 15 years of CIP reportings of, I like to say that, like static PDF files in your school profiles. So like, I'm not asked that, but I'm sure that many of you never read others' CIP reports inside the platform. But there's so like such amazing and interesting information about that. We read through that during the CIP awards, for example, understanding the examples and stories. And it's really important to the community to see what's going on around in your region, in your context, and in schools and institutions with similar realities, etc. So this is one of the aims that we have now with this digital transition. And I'd like to appreciate and thanks the work of the early adopter schools, so 25. So here we have some of them, here we have another group of them. So schools from all around the globe, different regions, different levels of seniority in Prime. So schools that joined Prime in 2008 and the schools that joined Prime in 2021. Schools from Latin America, from India, from Europe, so different regions, so we could have this different perspective and reactions on the questions, because we know, despite share the common purpose, we have different contexts, different realities, different way to collect information and data. So this was part of this learning experience that we have with the early adopters. So here's just like a really highlight and some like screenshots of what we got. And this is the kind of information that us as Prime Secretariat, we can have to create solutions for the community, like understanding what our community are doing, what they need more support, for example, what we can, how could we create more interaction, how can our peers support other peers. So of course, here is a short number of schools, like 25, but it brings a sense in what can we get in the future. Like it will be easy to understand how schools are implementing sustainability practices in the classroom, in the curricula, or even in research, how they are walking the talk, for example, when we talk about like carbon transition, carbon emissions, diversity and inclusion, for example. So for us as Secretariat, this is important to understand the community and to create and provide solutions for the community. And we believe that for the community, it's also important to see and to understand our peers. And I think on that, with the questions, when we were thinking about the questions, we keep bringing this sense of it's a auto-diagnostic service and activity. You're there, you're answering, but you're also reflecting on what you're doing and how can you be better? How can you better integrate the Prime principles? And in the end, you will have this visually and easy to share with your colleagues in the schools, like saying, well, this could be interesting to apply or to do it. We could do it that way in the other direction, et cetera, et cetera. So it not just a lonely exercise in filling the question, but could be shared inside university and outside university too. So I stop here now and let you, Tung, talk about the Prime Commons platform. Yeah.
Yes. So I just want to say that Gustavo has led this transition the past 2 years excellently. And I also want to repeat what I've heard from one of the I5 workshop, which is you don't learn by doing, you learn by thinking about what you're doing. And this is why we do the CIP report and platform. So one of the lessons learned from the early adopters, like this is the juice. So people are really concerned about, hey, now that we lose this freedom to construct our own narrative, we might lose the richness of storytelling and diverse activities that we care about within our institution. However, we want to stress that in the SIP survey, what we make sure is that there is a standardized format to allow for all kinds of narrative reporting and qualitative data collection. For example, we ask you, do you have a sustainability center or sustainability officer? You said yes. And now it's time to submit the evidence. Who is your sustainability officer and what's the name of your center, for example? Oh, we ask you if there is courses regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you said yes. And we will ask you, where is that course? Can you share and upload that information to us, right? So, and you can also have a text form explaining, oh, this course was given because of this. So there is a lot of space to actually explain why you did what you did. The second one is that, of course, the concerns and issues that schools deem important. Now that in these questions, because we clearly align that and connect that with prime principles, there is a clear understanding of reporting requirements, right? So we tell you, hey, you committed to join this community. This is what this community care about. Can you let us know, like, if you are actually, can we actually count on you to really spread the gospel and really do what is required in order to achieve the goals of responsible management education, right? Finally, a lot of people mentioned data collection challenges, right? A lot of people are like, oh my God, like, how am I supposed to know? My university, my business school is big and complex. I know, I've worked in 9 different universities across 6 different countries. So I know that university are completely complex, conservative, very challenging environment, right? So how do we make sure that all these different units of assessment is clearly identified? So what we did with the early adopters is that we meet every 2 weeks. We discuss whether or not the phrasing of the questions are clear. We discuss whether or not there is enough freedom and how can we build the platform in such a way that allow multiple users within an institution so that you can share your institutional knowledge and memory, because people change positions all the time, right? So how do you actually track progress? So this is where Prime Commons platform come in. So what we are going to do is to provide a comprehensive solution to support Prime's work in creating, organizing, and sharing of responsible management content and reporting to foster collaboration, communication, and recognition within the global RME community. We talk a lot about teaching and learning throughout this 2 days, and a lot of teaching is underappreciated. And I've spoken to many early career researchers, and they say, hey, you don't climb a career ladder in academia, you fall off a cliff. So how do I create a platform that ensures that anyone who is willing to give and willing to share their work can be shared in a way that is safe, that is consented, and that is really complying to the copyright and licensing agreement? So how do we do this? What is Prime Commons? So it consists of 3 layers. The first layer is what we call the self-reporting 2, the SIP 2.0, where everybody filled in the same questionnaire. And here we also talk about the previous PDF reports that we had, right? There's 2,000 of them. It would be a waste to throw them all away. And all thanks to all the large language learning models that we have today, we can actually analyze the data and have the report available, and so that you can search. So Google search as you know it will end quite soon. So you will be start talking and searching, and hey, how do I actually incorporate climate action in my curriculum? You can type that in, and then we will have the LLM model classify that and curate that information for you. And I'm really happy that, Levant, you actually mentioned the AI Act from the European Commission. We have an excellent IT manager on board, Alexander Brewer, and he's also a data protection officer, which means that we're going to make sure the data is transparent and trusted, and we're not going to share with third party and so on. So it is completely, you can trust us. And I think it's really like when you say that, people are like, can we? So we have a lot of documentation on that. So first layer, sharing layer, right? SIP stands for sharing information on progress. So information layer, resource sharing community. Library. So every objects that you upload from the SIP report should be able to be shared and found whenever you decide it. It's under your control. And you should be able to say, okay, now I want to provide access to other schools, right? We have Mette school, Tung school, Gustavo school. All of us are doing very different things, and we want to share with each other. And for example, Gustavo school says, oh, wow, I really want to learn how to do sustainable finance in Africa. And then how do I do that? So we need to provide a space that people can talk, meet, and also put on video tutorials and guide one another. I think that you can have any magic platform that you want, but there is no adoption without engagement. So it is so important to engage everyone, and that's why we're in this 2 years journey, which Gustavo led, where there's so many conversations and dialogue on how to build this. And finally, we're going to build a SIP dashboard with a unique institutional profile. So every time I mention dashboard, people are scared because they think there will be rank. No way. So the whole comparative logic, does it make sense to compare the trajectory of 3 of us? Looking at our LinkedIn profile made no sense at all. But what makes sense is contextualizing it. If you would ask an institution and say, hey, do you have a diversity, equity, inclusion policy? And they would be like, hey, it's illegal. It's illegal for us in Europe to track what your ethnic are. This is irrelevant to us. But so contextualizing is really what we want to focus on here. Just now, Gustavo showed you sort of a snapshot of all these different questions and all the data that we collected on a prime signatory level, right? So all the early adopters. And then you have your individual level where you have your unique profile. Say each of us, you are really good at human rights courses, climate courses. You are really good at, I don't know, sustainability. And then you have diversity, equity, inclusion. Every week we will feature the school that is doing great in these areas. So you can also have your own kind of report and show it to your deans, your faculty administrator, and say, hey, this is what we've done. And there's no shame in saying that, hey, we do not have infrastructure. I think vulnerability is an issue here in business school, in a sense that, because I do not come from a business school, I'm from humanities, communication scholars, and philosophy. So, and it's funny that I'm now in tech. So it's really important that you feel open to share that you do not have those things in place. 5 years ago, we do not have sustainability center. 5 years later, we do. How great is that? So we really want to make sure that this platform can cater to that and can really look into progress and monitoring and accountability in a responsible way. So this is the roadmap. So layer 1, so all these are a very technical thing. We're on our way to build this by November. We hope to have a prototype for layer 1 where we have SIP report data analysis. We will be pulling all the school to start filling in the survey. And then we're going to create a relational database for query. And then we're going to create a SIP report repository, right? And the second layer is the web application for peer learning, resource sharing, searching. This is where we talk about the library and also the discussion fora. Finally, this is a dashboard with indicators and narratives for global, regional, local, and individual schools. So we can have all these different units of analysis available to us. So finally, the SIP report is not just in the PDF, but available to us all. So this is timeline, boring stuff. So I will give it to Gustavo.
Yeah, like it's not that boring, but like it's a transition timeline, so it's good.
Yeah.
We're transition for a better word, let's say that. So starting now until like next year and the year following, like our intention is to transition for this new logic for SIP 2.0, especially in the level of the layer 1 of the Commons platform when we talk about the SIP questionnaire. So here is the process that we're aiming to do. So mainly our intention in the following months is to support the community for this transition. So we've been talking in different webinars and different opportunities about the questions itself, supporting schools to understand what the questions are, where they came from, who can you mobilize in your school to collect the data and collect the information. We will invite the early adopters to share their own experience in this process, because they did that. They got the questions, and then 3 months later, they finalized the SIP report. So they will provide examples and how they managed that in the following months. Also, on the platform itself, as we build the platform, we like to hear the community on what would be important, what could be suggested, what could be improved. So this will start right now. You're now able to, we have a brand new SIP 2.0 page on Prime website, so you can read through all this transition process, all the Prime Commons platform. You can have a full report of the 2.5 years work of the SIP committee, and also you can download the questions. And I call this a working document because from now until end of September, the board will provide some final inputs on that, and we will launch this set of questions are aligned and connected with the new 7 principles of Prime in October. And said that we're going to change for this universal submission period. So we are here following the same guidelines that UNGC are doing with the COP, the Communication on Progress report, and the Communication on Progress questionnaire. So we will have a specific universal submission period. This will be really important because in the end of this period, we can get data, intelligence, insights to provide and create the solutions that I just mentioned. And of course, this will be all automatized, and we will support you all during this process. Our intention is to support and educate the community for this transition and make you use the Commons platform and be familiar with that, and appreciate that and use this as a tool for your university to implement and to support your journey on Prime. I'm not concluding, but if you have more questions, specific questions about that or on SIP in general, we will be after lunch in the booth of engagement, so you can just go there and ask questions. But as I said, we also have this new website. We have all there, can download the questions, can download the reports, so can get a better sense. And of course, from now on, we'll have different offers for engagement and opportunity to learn about this. So, Tung, fun part again.
Yes. So this is the sneak peek of sort of the platform. So you can see that on the left tab, it's very small for me here. There are different options to say, look into the different narratives. You can really see, go in and out of the SIP survey report. You can see how different reports are being featured weekly on different topics. And on the right, you have the Prime agent, for example, say John Smith, and he is responsible on assigning access and control to different people for the reporting. And you can really see that all these different tabs allow you to go to engage with people or search for different things. Another thing that I want to mention is that I want to thank Economics of Mutuality Foundation for funding us to make this possible. And the reason why is because we're really employing a lot of their thinking about mutuality, on how mutually beneficial things are. And we're not going to focus on transactions anymore. Transactional stuff is not interesting. Relationship building is the future. Mette, do you have any final
Absolutely.
remarks?
Thank you. No, thank you very much for going through and taking us through. As you can see, I really think with the team here and with the early adopters who have been engaged, and of course, led by you, Wilfred, we really think that this is going to be a super exciting digital platform. It's going to change how we engage. It's going to change how we share knowledge and how fast we can. It's going to change how we can very easily get inspired from each other. So it's also going to be helpful when a dean of education, for example, asks me about, so can you give me 10 good examples of how do I get climate change into my business school curriculum? And I still, have all these thousands of reports in my drawer or in my computer, and I cannot give him an answer because I don't have the Prime Commons yet. So this is again, the aggregate data that we are going to be able to deliver, the analysis, the reports as a source of inspiration for all of us is very, very exciting outcome of this platform. So I'm very thrilled, very thankful for your expertise and for everything that has been done. And of course, for Economics of Mutuality to give us the seed money, the first $1 million. for getting this actually started and started at a very high speed, I would say. But we are still looking for some funding in the future.
It's Mette, so
yeah. So thank you very much for listening, and now we are off to John. Where are you?
Okay.
Yes.
You can press one
Thank
more.
you. Yes.
Thank you.